Hey all, so relatively short one here against X-K9. I actually only had 4 fights this war. I know I'm a little bit behind on releasing these, but as you may have noticed, there's some stuff going on this month. So I will be catching up on these again soon. This first fight with Reed against Venom relies on a very simple idea, which is that Venom is going to be gaining buffs constantly, and every time he does so, he places a power drain on Reed, which is a non-damaging debuff, which increases Reed's chance to evade all attacks. Venom does not have any way to bypass evade until I get all the way down to 18% of my health, and so there's a lot of safety in here. Right away, we already have 3 debuffs on us and 3 on him. That's immediately an 18% chance to evade. It's in the time it's taken me to speak, it's already jumped up another 6%. There's another 3 on top of that. I mean, we want to play around his unstoppable timer, but there's not a lot of danger here. Ideally, we do maintain our buffs. We won't be able to stack them because the power drain is so strong that even once we get a careful study passive, we're just not going to get to a special 2. So we want to hold on to our buffs or our debuffs if we can. We want to build up those careful studies. We don't want to push him to the special 2. But basically, this is just very safe. Play around the unstoppable and rely on the fact that we have an absurdly high evade chance. Like at this point, let's see, 18 plus 1, 2, 3, and then the passive counts as 3 more on him, so we're up to 24 now that I've spoken 26 non-damaging debuffs. Multiply that by 3, we're at like an 80% chance to evade any hit, which means even if one slips through, it's almost certainly not going to be a full combo. So that's why I decided to do this, just to ramp Reed up as we go. Unfortunately, that heavy released late. I really thought I was on time for it. Clearly I was not. I got parried thanks to Stand Your Ground, and then I couldn't land another parry and I lost my starting debuffs. So, not awesome. But here we are. If we can close out the fight without him throwing a special 1, then the Careful Study passive will count as 1 unique debuff, and then the Careful Study debuff for the special 2 will also count, and so we can get 2 of our 3 charges back. Not the ramp I was hoping for, because we could have gotten those 2 charges and the 3 we started with back, and then we would have been at 6 going forward instead of 3. But luckily, I only really have 1 difficult fight after this, so it's not the end of the world. Speaking of said difficult fight, the next one up is Kitty on Power Stack. So I brought Nimrod for this. Nimrod obviously does trigger buffs, so we have the potential problem of her nullifying those armors, gaining power, and the fight spiraling out of control. The good news is that when this particular fight, quote, spirals out of control, if Kitty goes red, she doesn't do a whole lot of damage through those armors that Nimrod has. And on top of that, the incinerate that she places does very, very little damage. I know this even in the context of war with the elevated attack, because I've seen somebody else take this recently where they did accidentally push Kitty to her special 3. So I'm not really worried about how this one goes. I throw on the debuff siphoner to make any incinerates that get through that much weaker. I could have gone with suppression. There's an argument that would have been better, but I think the reason I didn't do that and just stuck with the petrify is because if Kitty gains a bunch of prowess and we are somehow not in either blitz or eradicate, then the fight could become a little bit tricky until we can push her to a special 1. That's not likely to happen, but it's just like a little bit of extra insurance. Now here, I should not have finished that combo and gone to the special 1. Nimrod specials are just too slow for that. I should have backed off in the middle of the combo, parried again, even knowing that I would gain an armor up, and knocked her down to hold on to the pre-fight debuffs. It's not the end of the world, but that is a little bit annoying. Thankfully, because we were in Eradicate, next time she threw a special, we get that nice long power drain. It's not a particularly strong one, but it is really helping us. See, there's another power gain there. Thankfully, because those armor ups trigger on parries, that means that I can take advantage of the Petrify Mastery and reduce the power snack gain even further. And then as you can see, the special 2 just finished it off. She did go red right at the end as I dexed, but again, that would not have done a lot of damage to us, and the fight was already over from all the shock damage we did. Now the next 2 fights, sadly, I don't have footage of. I thought that I recorded them. I've been pretty careful about it this season, but I guess it just either didn't take or I forgot. To be blunt, at that point in the war, it's possible that I forgot because X-K9 finished against our defense in all 3 battle groups at like 9 p.m. So like 7 hours after offense started for us. And they had only died twice in all 150. At that point, we had also died twice. And we were behind on time, adjusting for how many fights we had taken, which means that the war was lost. And from a morale perspective, it's difficult to keep going with that. We ended up dying 4 more times, which is not ideal, but it is still under the goal that we set for ourselves, which is 6 deaths or fewer for the Alliance, which averages out to 2 per BG. We feel like that's a pretty realistic spot to head for. And the fact that we didn't fall below that, even knowing for a good 60 fights at the end that the war was lost, is nice to know. We held our ground and didn't give up too much, but just, yeah, absolutely mind-blowing performance by them. The other 2 fights that I had, just to discuss them, were Immortal, Abomination, and Apocalypse on the second half of Path 6. Those nodes where if your Prowess builds up, you go unblockable. So the Immortal Abomination fight was super easy because he has no Prowess in his base kit. It basically just means that if you mess up and push him to his special 2 and then, like, I don't know, try to dex it and fail, bad things happen. But that's just not likely to occur. So I think that was probably a filler placement by them to try and force a poison immune. I don't know. I don't fully understand the placement, honestly, because Nimrod is a poison immune and is one of the best answers for that fight, or for that lane most of the time. But, I mean, I did get clipped by it. XL champions still have weird dashback issues for me, and I think there was one spot where I got hit exactly once as I was dashing back with Nimrod to avoid Immortal Abomination Special 1. So, a little bit unfortunate there. I think I had to use like a tier 3 potion to heal back up. Apocalypse is definitely a good placement there, because most people in war tend to follow the adage that, well, you know, Apocalypse's specials are so punishing if they hit you, it's just not worth dodging them. Just block them. Like, don't risk it. Except that on that node, if you block all of the beams of the special 1, or like the energy orbs and then the kicks from the special 2, every one of those blocked hits will give an additional prowess to the defender, and because Apocalypse on defense starts with 2 prowess, even one blocked hit takes him to 3, which means the next special is unblockable, and hits harder because of the prowess. So that causes some problems. There are a number of different counters. Punisher 2099 also would have been pretty good. Yeah, there are a lot of different counters. Good ghost play can handle it. But what I ended up doing was using Nimrod, not parrying much because of the hard knock life on it. I did parry a few times because Nimrod is immune to ability accuracy modification against mutants and has high armor, so he can block for days. The disorient doesn't really hurt him that much. But basically what I did was 4 hits, medium, light, 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 and then immediately block. You do that enough, and it's very rare, not impossible, but rare, that the AI throws a special. And so then what I did was I would push him to 2 bars and dex that. Now, often, like I said, people still block the special 2 because you really don't want to mess it up. But I'm very confident with the special 2 evade, and the downside of blocking it was high enough that I just went for it in this particular war on that node. I think I had to do it twice. I did manage to pull off the perfect dex both times, and then that let Nimrod just close out the fight from there. I believe I did use an indestructible, but as you know, that doesn't do a ton against Apocalypse. Thankfully, Nimrod is just a tank, and I played well enough that he destroyed it pretty quickly. Our battle group did die only once overall, which I think tied with theirs. One of their 2 deaths was in BG3, but again, just it's really, really hard to beat 2 deaths, and they had an incredible performance with a blisteringly fast time. So you win some, you lose some, and I don't think there's any shame in us losing that one. So on to the next one. Happy with how the Alliance performed, and congrats to X-K9 on just crushing it this season, apparently. So, hope you guys found this interesting. Sorry about the lost footage. Hopefully the description helps you out if you have to take those in the future. But I will catch you all next time. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and take care.